What if your entire world depended on a few precious objects? What if the difference between comfort and suffering, respect and obscurity, lay in what you owned? This is the reality for an elder in the High Middle Ages. Number 9. A personal seal or signet ring. The touch of cold metal against the skin, heavy and solid, offered a constant reminder of identity. For a medieval elder of standing, especially one whose active days of managing vast estates or navigating complex legal disputes might have waned, a personal seal or signet ring was far more than just a piece of jewelry. It was a condensed form of their entire being, their authority, their word, and their lineage. This small, intricately carved object carried the weight of their legacy. Imagine a ring perhaps made of solid gold or silver, or even a robust bronze featuring a deeply cut intaglio. This carving was unique, almost like a fingerprint, representing the elder's coat of arms, their personal device, or even just their initial if they were a wealthy merchant without a noble lineage. Sometimes, the design might have been an animal representing their family name, or a symbol of their trade guild, or a complex heraldic shield that spoke volumes about generations of ancestors. These rings were not fashion accessories. They were tools of power. The process of creating such a seal was painstaking. A skilled goldsmith or gem engraver would carefully carve the image in reverse onto a hard stone, such as carnelian, onyx, or even harder, more precious gems, which would then be set into the metal ring. The precision required meant only the best artisans could be trusted with such an important commission. The finished product was often a masterpiece of miniature art, a tiny window into the owner's world and status. Owning one of these rings meant you were part of a very exclusive club, a world of literacy and legal standing that most ordinary people could only dream of. How would a medieval elder use this potent object? Consider the sealing of documents. A legal contract, a deed of land, a will, or an official letter from a lord to a vassal all needed authentication. In an age before widespread literacy and standardized signatures, a unique seal was the ultimate proof of authenticity. A document, once sealed, was not merely signed, it was impressed with the very essence of the individual who authorized it. The elder would call for wax, often a deep red or rich green, sometimes black, carefully melted and poured onto the folded parchment. The signet ring, heated slightly, would then be pressed firmly into the warm, yielding wax. As the wax cooled, it hardened, creating a crisp, unmistakable impression of the elder's personal mark. This impression was incredibly difficult to forge, and tampering with a seal was a grave offense, often punishable by death. The broken seal meant a broken promise, a shattered agreement, a betrayal. Even in their later years, perhaps no longer riding out to battle or overseeing vast agricultural operations, the elder remained the patriarch or matriarch of their family. They would still need to approve marriages, final dowries, settle disputes among their children, or issue instructions to their bailiffs. Each of these acts, if they were to carry legal weight, would require the imprint of their seal. It was a tangible link to their enduring authority, a symbol that even as their physical strength might diminish, their word, backed by their seal, remained as strong as ever. The signet ring was not just for official documents. It was also used to seal private correspondence, ensuring that letters could not be opened and read by unauthorized eyes. Imagine the elder dictating a personal letter to a trusted scribe, then taking the ring from their finger and pressing it into the wax to ensure the message remained private between sender and recipient. This act of sealing was a ritual, a public declaration of trust and privacy. Sometimes, a separate seal, not worn on a ring, but as a stamp with a handle, might have been used. These were often larger and might have been used for more formal documents, perhaps charters granted to towns or monasteries. But even then, these larger seals were still extensions of the individual's identity, often bearing the same heraldry or symbols as their personal signet ring. The elder might keep this larger seal in their private chest, a treasured item kept under lock and key. The practical value of this object was immense. Without a seal, many transactions simply could not occur. Land could not be transferred, debts could not be formally acknowledged, and alliances could not be cemented. The seal ensured the smooth functioning of medieval society, upholding the legal and social order. For an elder, whose reputation and family name were paramount, the seal was a safeguard, protecting their interests and ensuring their wishes were carried out. The signet ring was also a powerful statement of social standing. Only individuals of high birth, significant wealth, or important office possessed one. A common peasant would have no need for a seal. Their agreements were often oral, witnessed by their village community. But a knight, a baron, a bishop, a wealthy merchant, or a town mayor, they all required this mark of authenticity. To see an elder with such a ring on their finger was to acknowledge their position, their history, and their power. It commanded respect without a single word needing to be spoken. Passing down a signet ring or seal from one generation to the next was a deeply significant act. It symbolized the transfer of authority, the continuation of the family line, and the enduring legacy of the elder. The son or daughter who inherited the ring did not just receive a piece of gold. They received the weight of their ancestors' reputation, the responsibility of upholding their name, and the power to command. The ring itself might show signs of wear, polished smooth in places from generations of fingers, bearing the subtle marks of history. These signs of age only added to its gravitas. Even during travels, the elder might keep their signet ring on their person, a constant companion and a ready source of authority. If they needed to make a payment, agree to a trade, or even secure lodging with a promise of future payment, the sight of their seal would carry immense weight. It was a portable declaration of their credit and credibility. In a world where physical presence and personal recognition were paramount, the seal served as an enduring representation of the individual, even when they were not there. It was a testament to their identity, their trust, and their unbreakable word. For an elder, whose physical vigor might have lessened, this small, powerful object allowed them to continue to exert their influence and maintain their respected place in the intricate tapestry of medieval life. It was their quiet, yet undeniable declaration of who they were and what they stood for. Number 8. A small reliquary or religious amulet. In the High Middle Ages, life was often hard, unpredictable, and filled with dangers both seen and unseen. Disease, famine, violence, and the ever-present threat of damnation loomed large in the minds of most people. For an elder who had weathered many seasons and witnessed countless hardships, spiritual solace and the hope of divine protection were not luxuries. They were vital necessities. A small reliquary or a personal religious amulet served as a constant, tangible link to the sacred, a source of profound comfort and perceived protection. A reliquary was a container, often beautifully crafted, designed to hold a holy relic. What kind of relic, you ask? It could be a tiny fragment of bone from a saint, a thread from a saint's clothing, a piece of wood believed to be from the true cross, or even a bit of soil from a holy site. These relics were not just mementos. They were believed to be imbued with the saint's power, a direct conduit to God's grace. For a medieval person, these were not superstitious trinkets, but objects of immense spiritual potency. Imagine a small, delicate box, perhaps made of silver or gilded copper, intricately engraved with religious scenes or symbols. It might be no larger than a thumb, designed to be worn around the neck on a chain, or perhaps small enough to be tucked into a pouch and kept close to the body, Some might have been small carved wooden crosses, smoothed by years of touch, depicting the suffering Christ or the Virgin Mary. Others could be tiny icons, painted on wood, depicting a favorite saint. These objects were intensely personal, often acquired through great effort, perhaps a pilgrimage to a distant shrine or a generous gift from a powerful patron. For an elder, whose life was drawing towards its close, thoughts of salvation and the afterlife became increasingly central. The reliquary or amulet offered a continuous reassurance. They might hold it in their hand during daily prayers, tracing the lines of the carving or feeling the cool metal, a quiet meditation. In moments of fear or pain, during a fever or a sleepless night, the elder might clasp the object, drawing strength from its perceived power. It was a constant reminder of God's presence, the communion of saints, and the promise of eternal life. The spiritual protection offered by such an item was believed to be very real. It could ward off evil spirits, protect against illness, or even avert danger. If an elder were to travel even a short journey, the amulet would be their unseen shield against robbers or accidents. During times of plague, when fear gripped every heart, the reliquary became a desperate plea for divine intervention, a small fortress of faith against an invisible enemy. The elder would trust in the saint's intercession, believing that the relic itself acted as a powerful mediator between them and the divine. The value of these objects was not measured in gold or silver, though the materials themselves could be precious. Their true worth was spiritual. They represented an investment in the spiritual well-being of the elder, a tangible expression of their devotion. The stories surrounding the relics were often retold, reinforcing their sanctity and the elder's connection to them. Perhaps the elder had inherited it from a revered parent, making it not only a holy object, but also a cherished family heirloom, steeped in generations of faith. Consider the elder during a period of illness. Medieval medicine was rudimentary, and many ailments were seen as divine punishment or the work of evil forces. In such times, the reliquary would be brought forth, placed near the elder's bed, or even touched to the afflicted part of their body. Prayers would be offered, and the elder, perhaps too weak to speak, would simply gaze upon the sacred object, finding comfort in its presence. The small, inanimate object became a beacon of hope in the face of despair. The choice of relic or saint for an amulet was often deeply personal. Perhaps the elder had a particular devotion to Saint Christopher, the patron saint of travelers, if they had led a life of journeys, or Saint Anne, the patron saint of mothers if they cherished their family, or Saint Sebastian if they feared illness. Each choice reflected a specific need, a particular hope, a unique connection to the vast pantheon of Christian saints. This personal devotion was not always public. While grand reliquaries were displayed in churches for veneration, a small personal amulet was often kept close, a private comfort. It was a reminder that even when alone, the elder was never truly abandoned, always watched over by the saints and by God. This quiet, intimate relationship with the divine was a cornerstone of medieval spiritual life. The sensory experience of the reliquary or amulet was an important part of its meaning. The smooth, cool feel of the metal against the skin, the faint scent of old incense or beeswax, the intricate patterns that could be traced by a finger, all contributed to its power. It was a tactile connection to the sacred, a way to ground oneself in faith amidst the chaos of the world. For an elder living in a time of deep faith and constant spiritual awareness, the small reliquary or religious amulet was more than just an object. It was a symbol of hope, a source of protection, a tangible representation of their lifelong devotion. It offered solace in moments of fear, strength in times of weakness, and a profound sense of connection to the divine, guiding them through the twilight years and towards the promise of eternal peace. It was a small object carrying an immense, universe-spanning significance. Number 7. A personal goblet or drinking vessel. In the bustling, often unsanitary world of the High Middle Ages, personal hygiene was a concept very different from what we understand today. Shared resources were common, and individualized items were often a mark of status, wealth, and a subtle insistence on a certain level of personal comfort. For a medieval elder, a personal goblet or drinking vessel was not just a container for liquids. It was a statement of identity, a guarantor of a small measure of cleanliness, and a subtle declaration of their place in the household or community. Consider the typical medieval meal. In many households, especially lower down the social ladder, food was eaten from shared trenchers, flat, thick slices of stale bread, or from simple wooden bowls. Drink was often passed around in communal wooden tankards or crude earthenware pitchers. In such an environment, the possession of one's own dedicated drinking vessel was a distinct privilege. Imagine a goblet crafted from fine pewter, its surface polished to a soft gleam, or perhaps a more opulent one made of silver, glinting in the firelight. For the truly wealthy, a glass goblet, delicately blown and perhaps even etched, would have been a rare and astonishing treasure. Wooden or horn cups, while more common, could still be personalized through carving or decoration, making them distinct from the plain shared vessels. These were not just functional items, they were often objects of beauty and craftsmanship. The elder would cherish this vessel. It might be kept safely in their personal chest, brought out for meals and carefully cleaned afterwards. The simple act of drinking from one's own cup, knowing it had not touched countless other lips, offered a quiet satisfaction. This small point of personal hygiene, while not a modern concept of sterile cleanliness, was still a significant step towards comfort and health in an era where disease spread easily through shared items. Beyond hygiene, the personal goblet was a clear indicator of status. At a lord's table, while squires and servants might drink from shared communal cups or basic wooden beakers, the lord and lady and honored guests would each have their own distinct and often elaborate vessel. For an elder, even if they had retired from the active management of their estates, their personal goblet reaffirmed their position as head of the family, a respected figure, or an honored guest. Its presence on the table immediately conveyed their importance. Think of the rituals of a medieval feast, the clinking of metal against metal, the pouring of wine or ale, the shared laughter and conversation. Amidst this conviviality, the elder would hold their unique goblet, perhaps raising it in a toast, the specific engravings or smooth, worn surface familiar beneath their fingers. It was a part of their personal identity, an extension of their presence at the table. The materials used for the goblet also spoke volumes. A silver goblet was not just for drinking. It was a form of portable wealth, easily melted down in times of desperate need, but more often admired for its aesthetic and symbolic value. A pewter goblet was substantial and durable, a sign of comfortable means. Even a beautifully carved wooden cup, perhaps made from a special wood, indicated a degree of care and personal investment. This personal vessel could also have sentimental value, accumulated over years of use. Each small dent, each scratch on the surface told a silent story of countless meals, celebrations, and quiet moments of reflection. It was an object that had accompanied the elder through many phases of their life, witnessing private thoughts and public pronouncements. The elder might have a particular preference for what they drank from their goblet, perhaps a specific vintage of wine, or a local ale, or simply clean spring water. The act of filling their personal cup was a small gesture of self-care, a moment of individual pleasure in a world that often demanded communal living. They might sip slowly, savoring the taste, finding a quiet comfort in the familiar object. This possession was not just about consumption. It was about dignity. To be able to maintain a small corner of personal space and personal possessions in a world that often lacked it was a mark of respect. It was an acknowledgement that, even as an elder, one retained individuality and importance. The goblet might have been a gift, perhaps from a child, or a memento from a significant event, further cementing its personal importance. In contrast to the rough, unrefined nature of many common items, a personal goblet often boasted a degree of craftsmanship that made it stand out. This attention to detail reflected the owner's taste and wealth. It might be adorned with small decorative motifs or a simple elegant form. Its design might even align with the elder's broader aesthetic preferences, a subtle expression of their personality. Ultimately, for a medieval elder, a personal goblet was more than just a drinking cup. It was a tangible expression of their status, their identity, their claim to a small piece of comfort and hygiene in a challenging world. It was a valued possession that accompanied them through the rhythms of daily life, a familiar presence at every meal, a quiet symbol of their enduring place in the world. Number 6. A set of reading glasses. Spectacles. Imagine a world where the sharpness of your mind could outlast the sharpness of your sight. For centuries, the onset of presbyopia, the natural hardening of the eye's lens with age, making close-up reading difficult, meant that a scholar, a scribe, a merchant, or any educated person faced a stark reality. Their ability to read, write, and engage in detailed work would inevitably decline. Then, in the late 13th century, a revolutionary invention emerged from Italy, changing the lives of countless elders across Europe. Reading glasses or spectacles. For a medieval elder, particularly one who cherished learning, managed complex accounts, or engaged in spiritual study, a set of spectacles was not merely an aid, it was a gateway. It reopened the world of text, allowing them to continue their intellectual pursuits, to maintain their professional duties, and to find solace in the written word long after their natural vision had faded. These early spectacles were nothing like the sleek, lightweight glasses of today. They were often two convex lenses, usually made of quartz or beryl, a type of glass, set into frames of bone, leather, or metal, joined by a hinge. They did not sit on the ears with arms. Instead, they were typically held up to the eyes or perched precariously on the nose. The elder would delicately balance them, perhaps adjusting their head to find the perfect angle of light. The acquisition of spectacles was a significant event. They were incredibly rare and expensive, available only to the wealthiest and most learned individuals. Glass-making technology was advanced, but the skill required to grind and polish lenses with the correct curvature was exceptional. To possess a pair marked an elder as someone of immense privilege, education, and importance. It was a quiet declaration of their commitment to the intellectual life. Think of an elder, perhaps a retired abbot, a respected legal scholar, or a wealthy merchant still overseeing his ledgers. The frustration of trying to decipher tiny, cramped script in the dim light of a medieval chamber without aid would have been immense. Then, the introduction of these lenses would have seemed nothing short of miraculous. The blurred lines of a manuscript, the illegible figures in an account book suddenly snapped into focus, the world of letters once closing flung open again. The impact on daily life was profound. An elder could continue to read their beloved prayer book, poring over the illuminated pages, their devotion deepened by the ability to see every detail. They could continue to examine legal documents, ensuring their affairs were in order, their family's legacy secured. A merchant could verify quantities and prices, maintaining their acumen and control over their business. These glasses extended the elder's productive life, allowing them to remain mentally engaged and influential far beyond what was previously possible. The elder would treat their spectacles with extreme care. They would likely have a special case, perhaps made of leather or carved wood, lined with soft cloth, to protect the fragile lenses. The glasses would be carefully placed there when not in use, never left casually lying around. The very act of taking them out and putting them on was a deliberate ritual, a sign of preparing for serious engagement. The rarity of spectacles meant that an elder wearing them would draw attention and respect. It was a visible sign of their learning and wealth. Others might approach them with curiosity, perhaps even awe, recognizing the extraordinary nature of the device. This small object subtly elevated the elder's standing, reinforcing their reputation as a wise and knowledgeable individual whose insights were still valuable. Consider the solitary moments. An elder sitting by a window, the light falling just so on a parchment, spectacles perched on their nose, engrossed in a text. The quiet concentration, the joy of comprehension, the continuation of a lifelong habit of learning. This personal connection to knowledge, facilitated by this innovative invention, offered immense satisfaction and kept the mind sharp even as the body might slow down. The continued access to written knowledge allowed elders to serve as repositories of information, their wisdom not solely reliant on memory or oral tradition, but continuously refreshed and deepened by the texts they could now access. They could consult ancient texts, read new decrees, and engage with the evolving intellectual currents of their time. This made them invaluable advisors, storytellers, and educators within their communities. The development of spectacles was slow, evolving over centuries. Early versions might have corrected only for farsightedness, but their impact on literacy and intellectual life was undeniable. For an elder in the high Middle Ages, a set of spectacles was more than just a piece of technology. It was a liberation, a renewed connection to the world of ideas, and a powerful symbol of their enduring intellect and status. It truly allowed them to see clearly, both literally and figuratively, into their later years. Number 5. A chest or coffer. In the communal and often transient living arrangements of the High Middle Ages, personal space and secure storage were rare commodities. Homes, whether a modest peasant's cottage or a grand lord's castle, were often open and bustling with activity. Possessions were frequently shared or easily accessible. For a medieval elder, particularly one with accumulated wealth, important documents, or sentimental treasures, a robust chest or coffer was an indispensable possession, serving as a sanctuary of security and a tangible representation. Imagine a chest, probably made of heavy oak or elm, its planks thick and sturdy. It would be bound with iron straps, perhaps intricately wrought, not just for decoration, but for immense strength. Large ornate hinges might adorn the back, and the front would feature a formidable lock, often with a complex mechanism that made it difficult to pick. These chests varied in size, from small portable boxes that could hold a few precious trinkets to massive immovable trunks that might have been built into the very structure of the room. The elder would have their own key, a heavy piece of metal perhaps worn smooth from years of handling. This key was a symbol of their privacy and control, guarded carefully, sometimes even worn on a chain around their neck. The act of opening and closing the chest was a deliberate ritual, signaling access to their most guarded possessions. What might such a chest contain? For a wealthy elder, it could hold a few silver coins, perhaps a small hoard of gold, carefully wrapped in cloth. There might be important documents, a charter granting them land, a deed of sale, a marriage contract, or a copy of their will. These parchments, vital for the family's future, would be rolled and tied, kept safe from damp and rodents. There might also be items of personal value. A favorite piece of jewelry, a lock of hair from a deceased loved one, a beautifully embroidered pouch, or a small bottle of a precious ointment or dried herbs for medicinal purposes. For an elder who had spent a lifetime accumulating wealth and influence, the chest was the physical embodiment of their legacy. It was where they stored the tangible proof of their achievements and the instruments of their continued authority. Even if they had retired from active work, their will and wishes for the family's future would reside within its locked confines. The chest also served as a portable bank or safe deposit box. If the elder needed to travel, a smaller version of the chest might accompany them, securing their essential funds and documents. Within the home, whether it was a small private chamber or just a corner of a busy hall, the chest provided a personal refuge, a place where their individuality was maintained. It was a clear marker of personal ownership in a time when many furnishings were shared or belonged to the household rather than an individual. The sheer solidity of the chest itself offered a psychological comfort. Its weight, its unyielding nature, its resistance to casual intrusion provided a sense of security in a world that could be unstable. The sound of the heavy lid closing with a thud and the satisfying click of the lock offered a quiet assurance that all within was safe. Beyond its practical use for security, the chest could also function as a piece of furniture. A large chest might serve as a bench for sitting, or even a low table for spreading out documents or playing a game. Its dual purpose added to its utility in a medieval home, where space was at a premium. Some chests were exquisitely carved, adorned with intricate designs that reflected the owner's status and aesthetic taste. These chests were not just containers. They were pieces of art reflecting the pride and wealth of their owner. Consider the process of inheritance. When an elder neared the end of their life, the contents of their chest would become paramount. The key might be passed to the eldest child, symbolizing the transfer of responsibility and wealth. The opening of the chest, perhaps after the elder's passing, would be a solemn moment, revealing the private world they had carefully guarded. It would be a tangible link to their life, their decisions, and their accumulated treasures. The chest was a repository of memories and secrets. The elder might quietly open it on a lonely evening, perhaps to retrieve a letter from a long-lost friend, or to count their coins, or simply to touch the objects that held personal meaning. These were moments of reflection, connecting them to their past and their enduring sense of self. In essence, for a medieval elder, a chest or coffer was far more than a mere box. It was a secure vault for their material wealth and legal proof, a private sanctuary in a public world, and a powerful symbol of their enduring legacy and individuality. It allowed them to maintain control over their most vital possessions, providing both practical security and immense personal peace of mind. Number 4. Warm cloak or robes. Medieval life was often characterized by cold, damp, and drafty conditions. Homes, even castles, were rarely heated effectively beyond the immediate vicinity of a fireplace. For a medieval elder, whose body might have become more susceptible to the chill, a warm cloak or set of robes was not just an item of clothing. It was a shield against the elements, a source of profound comfort, and a powerful symbol of their status and dignity. Imagine a cloak, long and flowing, perhaps made of thick, undyed wool, or, for the very wealthy, dyed in rich, deep colors like crimson or blue. It would be heavy, offering substantial warmth, perhaps lined with fur for extra insulation. For someone of noble standing, this could be sheepskin, rabbit fur, or even more luxurious pelts like ermine or sable, indicating immense wealth and prestige. The fabric itself might be finely woven, a testament to skilled craftsmanship, quite different from the rough homespun textiles of the common folk. These garments were designed for maximum warmth. A medieval elder would likely wear multiple layers underneath, but the cloak or robe was the outermost defense against the biting wind and pervasive cold. It would envelop them, reaching to their ankles or even trailing on the ground, creating a portable cocoon of warmth. The feeling of being wrapped in its soft, heavy folds, especially after stepping out of a heated room or returning from a journey, would have been deeply comforting. The importance of this warmth for an elder cannot be overstated. As people age, their circulation often slows, and they become more vulnerable to the cold. A good cloak helped maintain body temperature, protecting against chills, coughs, and the aches and pains that came with dampness. It was a practical necessity for health and well-being. Beyond practical warmth, the cloak or robes also carried immense social significance. The quality of the fabric, the richness of the dye, and the luxuriousness of the lining all proclaimed the elder's status. A simple rough woolen cloak marked a peasant, while a flowing, finely made robe of brightly colored wool, perhaps trimmed with fur, indicated a noble or wealthy merchant. The elder's garments were a visible declaration of their position in the social hierarchy, commanding respect without a single word. Consider the elder moving through their day. They might rise from their bed in a cold chamber and immediately wrap themselves in their warm robe, drawing its comforting embrace around them. They might wear it during meals in the great hall, which, despite the fire, could remain quite chilly. When attending church, which was often unheated, the cloak was an essential shield against the cold stone. If they had to travel even a short distance, the cloak provided protection from the elements. The way the cloak hung its folds and drapes added to the elder's imposing presence. It created an aura of dignity and wisdom. An elder wrapped in a grand, sweeping cloak moved with a stately grace, their movements perhaps slowed by age, but their presence amplified by their dignified attire. It was a silent statement of their authority and gravitas. These garments were often well made and durable, designed to last for many years, perhaps even a lifetime. A favorite cloak might become imbued with personal memories, its fabric softening with age and wear, subtly molding to the elder's form. It might even be passed down through generations, becoming a treasured family heirloom. Its history, woven into its very threads, the colors of the robes could also be significant. Deep blues, rich reds, and forest greens often required expensive dyes and skilled dyeing processes, further indicating wealth. A more sober gray or brown might be chosen by a devout elder, symbolizing humility or piety, while still being made of high quality, warm material. Each choice reflected aspects of the elder's personality and their place in society. Even the way the elder wore their cloak could convey meaning. Drawn tightly around them, it might suggest contemplation or a need for personal space. Open and flowing, it might signify a readiness to engage with others or a declaration of their open presence. In a world where comfort was often a luxury and survival depended on mitigating the harshness of nature, a warm cloak or set of robes was an invaluable possession for a medieval elder. It provided essential physical protection, enveloped them in comfort, and served as a constant, visible reminder of their respected status and enduring dignity within their community. It was a silent, yet powerful testament to their resilience and their continued place in the world. Number 3. A comfortable chair or bench. For most people in the high Middle Ages, seating was a basic affair. Benches along walls, simple three-legged stools, or even just the floor were the common options. A chair, particularly one with a back and armrests, was a luxury, a symbol of authority, and a rare indulgence in personal comfort. For a medieval elder whose bones might ache and whose energy might wane, a comfortable chair or bench was not just a convenience. It was a vital source of physical repose, a place of honor, and a fixed point in their world. Imagine a chair perhaps carved from solid oak, its back rising high, possibly adorned with intricate carvings, or even a family crest. It would have broad, supportive armrests, worn smooth by countless hours of hands resting upon them. It might be further enhanced with cushions, perhaps stuffed with wool or feathers, and covered in fine fabric, offering softness against the hard wood. This was not a flimsy piece of furniture. It was built to last for generations, a substantial and enduring fixture in the home. The very existence of such a chair was a statement. In a medieval hall, where communal living was the norm, the lord or lady, and perhaps a select few of the most important guests or family members, would occupy the chair of state, or the master's chair. Everyone else would sit on benches or stools. For an elder, having their own designated comfortable chair was a clear acknowledgement of their seniority, their wisdom, and their respected position within the household and community. It was a literal throne, signifying their enduring place at the head of the family or within the social hierarchy. The physical comfort provided by such a chair was immense. An elder, whose body might be stiff from age, would find immense relief in the support offered by a high back and sturdy arms. It provided a place to rest weary limbs, to ease aching joints, and to sit upright with dignity without strain. After a long day of supervising household affairs or simply navigating the uneven floors and stairs of a castle, the opportunity to sink into a supportive cushioned seat would have been a profound comfort. Consider the elder's daily routine. They might sit in their chair near the warmth of the roaring fire in the great hall during the colder months, or by a window offering a view of the courtyard during fairer weather. From this vantage point, they could observe the bustling activity of the household. Servants going about their tasks, children playing, visitors arriving. The chair allowed them to remain engaged, to offer advice, and to maintain a watchful eye over their domain, all while resting comfortably. The chair became a focal point for receiving visitors. Guests would approach the elder, who would be seated in their place of honor, ready to listen, to speak, or to offer counsel. The very act of taking a seat in that particular chair signaled the elder's authority and readiness to engage in matters of importance. It was a nonverbal cue that conveyed respect and gravitas. These chairs were often carefully maintained, their wood polished, their cushions plumped, ensuring they remained a comfortable and inviting presence. They might have been passed down through the family, acquiring the patina of age and the subtle marks of generations of use. Each scratch, each worn patch on the armrest could tell a silent story of countless conversations, decisions, and quiet moments of contemplation. The permanence of the chair also offered a sense of stability. In a world where possessions were often moved or reused, a grand, immovable chair became a steadfast fixture in the elder's life, a consistent anchor in their familiar surroundings. It was a symbol of their roots, their history, and their enduring presence. For an elder whose physical mobility might have decreased, the chair offered a safe and accessible place to rest and participate in daily life. It allowed them to conserve their energy, to remain active in their mental faculties, even if their body required more support. It was a tangible expression of the care and respect afforded to them by their family or household. In essence, a comfortable chair or bench for a medieval elder was far more than simple furniture. It was a source of profound physical comfort, a clear marker of their high status and authority, and a stable, respected place from which they could continue to observe, influence, and preside over their world. It was a throne, a haven, and a silent testament to their enduring importance. Number 2. A staff, or walking stick. For a medieval elder whose joints might ache and whose steps might falter, a staff or walking stick was an invaluable companion, a steadying presence in a world of uneven terrain and uncertain footing. Yet, this simple object was far more than just a mobility aid. It was a symbol of authority, a mark of wisdom gained through years, and a subtle indicator of their respected place in society. Imagine a staff perhaps cut from sturdy oak or ash, its wood worn smooth by years of gripping. It might be plain and unadorned, reflecting a life of practical utility, or it could be intricately carved, perhaps even topped with a metal finial, signifying wealth and status. A pilgrim's staff, often simple but strong, would bear witness to countless journeys. A shepherd's crook, a bishop's crozier, or a ceremonial staff carried by a civic official all communicated their owner's role and power. For an elder, their personal staff blended these utilitarian and symbolic meanings. The primary function of the staff was, of course, practical. Medieval roads and pathways were often unpaved, muddy, and uneven. Stairs in castles and manor houses could be steep and treacherous. Even within a home, uneven floors and obstacles presented challenges. For an elder whose balance or strength might be diminished, the staff provided crucial support, allowing them to navigate their environment with greater confidence and safety. It was an extension of their body, offering stability and reducing the risk of falls. Consider the elder making their way through a bustling market square or slowly ascending the steps to their private chambers. The steady tap-tap of their staff on the cobblestones or stone floors would announce their presence, a rhythmic accompaniment to their measured pace. It allowed them to maintain a degree of independence, to move about their world without constant reliance on others for physical support. Beyond its physical utility, the staff carried profound symbolic weight. Throughout history, the staff has been associated with leadership, wisdom, and spiritual authority. The shepherd's crook guided the flock, the king's scepter symbolized rule, and the hermit's staff indicated a life of contemplation and spiritual journey. For an elder, their staff silently communicated their accumulated wisdom and experience. It marked them as someone who had seen many seasons, who had weathered life's storms, and whose counsel was often sought. An elder, leaning on their staff during a village meeting or a family gathering, projected an image of quiet authority. It wasn't just a prop, it was part of their identity. The staff reinforced their presence, providing a stable anchor as they spoke or listened, their voice perhaps less strong, but their words carrying the weight of years. The material of the staff could also speak volumes. A polished, well-maintained wooden staff suggested a life of care and order. One made of a precious metal or adorned with gems, though less common for a walking stick, would instantly signal immense wealth. Even a simple wooden staff, if it was old and deeply worn, conveyed a sense of history and endurance. The staff could also serve as a gentle tool for interaction. An elder might use it to point, to draw attention to something, or even to tap gently on a younger person's shoulder to gain their attention. It was a non-verbal means of communication, an extension of their hand and their will. In a pinch, it could even serve as a modest defensive tool against a stray dog or an unwelcome intruder, though this was rarely its primary purpose. The staff was a constant companion, often kept close at hand, leaning against a wall by their chair or beside their bed. It became a familiar, comforting presence, a silent witness to their daily life. The feel of the wood, smooth and warm from constant contact, would be deeply familiar and reassuring. It was a physical link to their routine, their movements, and their enduring place in the world. For some elders, especially those who had been pilgrims, their staff might be a treasured memento of a sacred journey, perhaps carved with symbols of the places they had visited or the saints they had honored. It was a tangible piece of their spiritual life, a reminder of their faith and endurance. In essence, for a medieval elder, a staff or walking stick was far more than just a mobility aid. It was a practical necessity for navigating a challenging physical world, a powerful symbol of their wisdom and authority, and a constant, comforting companion that helped them maintain their independence and respected place in the intricate tapestry of medieval life. It was a silent, yet profound declaration of their continuing presence and importance. Number 1. A prayer book, or psalter. In the spiritual heart of the High Middle Ages, where daily life was deeply intertwined with Christian faith, a personal prayer book or psalter was a possession of immense value, particularly for an elder. This was not just a collection of words, it was a tangible connection to the divine, a source of profound spiritual solace, a mark of literacy and status, and a beautiful work of art. Imagine a book, often quite small enough to be held comfortably in the hands, or sometimes larger and more ornate. It would be entirely handwritten and often exquisitely illuminated. The pages would be made of vellum, a finely prepared animal skin, smooth and supple to the touch. The ink, made from natural pigments, would be vibrant, rich blues, deep reds, gleaming gold and silver. The text would be in Latin, the language of the Church, meticulously copied by scribes. Miniature paintings or illuminations, depicting scenes from the Bible, saints, or daily life would adorn the margins or fill entire pages, bringing the sacred stories to life. The creation of such a book was a painstaking process, requiring months or even years of labor by skilled artisans, scribes, illuminators, and bookbinders. Each book was unique, a masterpiece of medieval craftsmanship. This meant they were incredibly expensive, available only to the wealthiest nobility, high-ranking clergy, or exceptionally prosperous merchants. To own a personal prayer book was a clear declaration of immense wealth and profound piety. For an elder, the prayer book, often called a book of hours or a psalter containing the Psalms, served as their primary guide for daily spiritual devotion. The Book of Hours contained prayers for different times of the day, known as the canonical hours, allowing the elder to follow the rhythm of monastic life, even if they lived in a secular household. They might begin their day with matins, say prayers throughout the day, and conclude with compline before sleep. This structured prayer life provided comfort and routine, especially as physical activities might lessen with age. Consider the elder, perhaps seated in their comfortable chair by the fire, slowly turning the vellum pages. The faint scent of old parchment, ink, and leather would fill the air. Their fingers would trace the delicate illuminations, the vibrant colors a joy to behold in the dim light. They would read the familiar words, their voice perhaps a quiet murmur, finding solace in the ancient prayers and reflections on mortality and salvation. The Psalms in particular offered a wide range of emotions and themes: praise, lament, hope, repentance. For an elder reflecting on a lifetime of experiences, these ancient poetic texts would resonate deeply, offering words for every joy and sorrow. The personal connection to these texts, mediated by their own beautifully crafted book, made their spiritual journey deeply intimate. Beyond personal devotion, the prayer book was also a symbol of literacy. In a society where most people, even nobles, were illiterate, the ability to read Latin and engage directly with such a text was a mark of extraordinary education and intellect. The elder could not only read, but also understand the complex theological concepts presented within its pages, solidifying their reputation as a wise and learned individual. The book might be stored in a special leather satchel, or in the elder's personal chest, carefully protected from damp and damage. It was a treasure both for its material value and its spiritual significance. It might be passed down through generations, becoming a sacred family heirloom, a tangible link to the faith and history of their ancestors. Each family member who inherited it would add their own stories, their own prayers to its rich tapestry of meaning. In times of illness, fear, or anxiety, the prayer book would be brought forth. The elder might hold it close, drawing comfort from its physical presence, or ask a trusted companion to read from its pages. The words of Scripture and prayer, offered hope, strength, and a profound sense of connection to God in moments of vulnerability. It was a source of unwavering faith in an uncertain world. The illustrations in these books were not just decorative, they were didactic, teaching the stories of the Bible and the lives of saints. For an elder, these images might serve as memory aids, helping them recall familiar narratives, or as prompts for contemplation and prayer. The visual richness enhanced the spiritual experience, making the abstract concepts of faith more concrete and accessible. In essence, for a medieval elder, a prayer book or psalter was more than a mere collection of texts. It was a deeply personal spiritual guide, a constant source of comfort and contemplation, a powerful symbol of their piety and education, and a beautiful object embodying centuries of artistic and religious devotion. It anchored their faith, enriched their mind, and provided a profound sense of purpose and peace as they journeyed through the twilight of their lives.